fats are also one very important component of it. And how presence of fats is also critical to make our diet a balanced ones. And then we also were trying to understand that how different minerals is also significant part of the entire concept of good nutrition and also a balanced diet. And we need not forget that how important it is to have good amount of water, because the major part of our body composition is of water. So if we want good absorption of nutrients in our body, good digestion in our body, better metabolic functioning in the body, good intake of water is also an extremely important part of our overall balanced nutrition. Nutrition is just not about eating food, right? It is also about balancing it with right amount of your fluids. So I hope this is the material which we all are referring for those who have joined the class today. I hope you have had the opportunity to go through the material. So in this women's health and issues and concepts, today's class, we will try to understand certain very important aspects with regard to what are the dietary requirements in different age groups. Now, it is needless to say that when you are at a younger age, when you are in adolescent age, when you are adult, and when you are in old age, our dietary requirements vary, and it should vary also. If it is not varying, then there is lot of uh, um, imbalance which is created. So, with specific reference to women, when we are trying to understand, the dietary requirements will vary during pregnancy and after the childbirth has taken place. For lactating mothers, also the dietary requirements will vary. So, this is the unit 4 of your material. I hope you have had some opportunity to go through it. So, to revise what is important component of this particular unit, like in terms of a balanced diet, good nutrition, what all is important, whether the diet is giving us proper energy or not, because when a woman is pregnant, she has to feed not only for her physical self, but also the child who is in her womb. So, in terms of energy, in terms of the right amount of protein, in terms of calcium intake, right? So all these aspects become very, very important, and one very important component of diet for a pregnant woman is iron supplement. How good is the iron supplement which the pregnant woman is taking? And of course, different kinds of vitamins with specific focus on vitamin B12. So let us try to understand in terms of calorie intake. This data has been provided after a lot of scientific research endeavors. So usually for a pregnant woman in first trimester, the minimal increase in calorie intake is needed, but from second trimester, when she is slightly at a advanced level of pregnancy, then an additional 300 to 350 calories per day is required. And when the pregnant woman is in her third trimester, then additional 400 to 500 calories per day is required. So we have to remember that she's feeding not only for her physical body, but also for the child who is there in her womb. Now, usually, what are we eating in different uh, stages of the pregnancy? It is also culturally determined. Like many times, just because we live with the perception that she has to feed for the child, also she is overfed, which leads to massive increase in her weight. See, some amount of increase in weight is natural, it is important also. But again, massive increase in her weight again will have different kinds of complications after the delivery is done. So, whatever intake of food is there, it has to be healthy intake which is actually helping her to strengthen her energy levels, not only for her physical self, so that she's active, she has good amount of energy, so that she can also take that additional charge, additional care of the child which is there in her womb. Then with regard to macronutrients, we have discussed in yesterday's class that how important it is to have protein, because this is the one which helps in lot of internal repair activities also, and also with regard to ensuring proper growth of the cellular dimensions in the body. So, protein, which is important for growth of fetal tissues, including the brain. So, recommended intake is 75 to 100 grams per day. Then, when you talk about carbohydrates, it is the carbohydrate which is very important component of providing energy. So, both for mother and developing baby, and we have discussed in yesterday's session that important components of carbohydrates include your whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, and also fats. It's not that because she's pregnant, she should be completely devoid of taking fats. That would not be a good practice with regard to her food intake, and that is why certain amount of fat is also required for the development of the brain of the fetus. Fetus is nothing but the child in mother's womb. And that is why focus on healthy fats. See, there are certain amount of fats which are categorized under unhealthy fats. So healthy fats include omega-3 fatty acids, very good, and which is found in flax seeds, walnuts, and fish. So until and unless you do not have any particular dietary regulation, these kind of foods can be taken up after your proper medical advice. And apart from macronutrients, in yesterday's session, if you can recall, we were trying to understand that nutrition can be categorized into macro and micro. So similarly, for a pregnant woman or for a lactating woman for that matter. See, friends, I have not segregated this between pregnant women and lactating women, because the intake is almost similar, and with such limited period of 12 hours, it will be difficult for us to discuss both separately. I would request you to kindly go through the material also. So with regard to micronutrients, some very critical micronutrients include our folic acid, what you call as folate, which is very important for preventing any kind of defects in the neural dimension of the child. And then the recommended intake is about 600 micrograms. So you might have also heard pregnant women taking folic acid tablets also for a certain period of time, which is very important to strengthen the spinal development of the child also. So there are natural vegetables and fruits also, which is considered to be rich in folic acid. As I told you, yesterday's class, when I was trying to explain about iron, the iron supplements are very critical supplements for women to avoid or to prevent any kind of anemia. Anemia can be very dangerous situation also, and especially because of in case the woman is having excessive bleeding during her menstrual cycle, her risk of becoming anemic also increases to a great extent. So, to ensure that hemoglobin content is appropriate, proper intake of iron is very important, because it is necessary to increase the blood volume in the body of the pregnant women, which will help to prevent anemia. And recommended intake is about 27 milligrams per day, and it includes lean meats, beans, and fortified cereals. Calcium also very important for the bone development, and also the development of the, strong teeth and strong bones for the mother. Very important. Dairy products are one of the richest sources. Then vitamin D. See, yesterday's class when I was trying to explain you that how vitamin D is important. So, vitamin D, one of the most significant and free sources of vitamin D is your exposure to the sun before 8 a.m. Because if you think that no, a daytime 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock also that exposure is giving me vitamin D, then please let me tell you, at that time you are at a greater risk of intense ultraviolet radiation. So before 8 a.m. is considered to be the appropriate time. So vitamin D is very important because if your vitamin D is not up to a certain level in your body, no matter how much ever calcium you're consuming, that calcium will not be absorbed by your body. So it is very important for us to understand this interlinkage between the calcium and vitamin D. So even if you are taking calcium appropriately, but if you are not, if you are deficient in vitamin D, that intake of calcium will not help you. And there is also, prescribed amount 600 international unit per day. And then vitamin C, very, very important to strengthen our immune system. And vitamin A also strengthens our immune system along with strengthening our vision also. And the recommended intake is 770 micrograms. And you also find vitamin E in carrots, sweet potatoes, dark leafy green vegetables. So these micronutrients can be very, very instrumental to fulfill the dietary requirements for a pregnant and lactating woman, because deficiency of any one of this will not only impact the pregnant woman but also the child who is there in mother's womb. Then, as I start yesterday also, mentioned this, and I started my today's session by telling that how important it is to be hydrated, because water and fluids are very, very important, especially during pregnancy period. In fact, in our coming classes, we are going to also discuss this. You might have heard that a few pregnant women, they had to undergo an emergency cesarean, or they had to deliver before the set date because the fluid content in her womb was reducing and fluid was leaking out. So doctors specially prescribe good amount of fluids during pregnancy period. For that matter, even a normal man, a normal woman who is not pregnant, I don't mean to say that being pregnant is abnormal. A person who is not pregnant, I meant to say that. So a person who is not pregnant also needs to keep oneself hydrated, and especially a pregnant woman and lactating woman, the requirement for fluid intake, water intake, appropriate water intake to keep oneself hydrated is extremely important. And about 2.3 liters of water, including, some fruit juices or vegetable soups, mainly from where the main sources water coupled with the fruits or vegetables is prescribed, about 2.3 liters. And when we are thinking about what are the foods which are prescribed, it is also important for us to understand that what should be avoided as part of our food. So, high mercury fish such as shark, swordfish, king mackerel, and tilefish, at high mercury level, like usually fishes, if they have the risk of having higher level of mercury in their body, that should be avoided. Undercooked or raw meat, eggs, fish should also be avoided because that may lead to a lot of foodborne diseases. Unpasteurized dairy products. So it is always advisable to boil the milk to prevent all kinds of infections like listeriosis, which is usually it results if one is consuming unpasteurized dairy products. Caffeine also, too much of tea and coffee can also increase the risk of being acidic, and that is why in limitation, in moderation only. And of course, alcohol has to be alcohol, smoking, these are the habits which has to be avoided by everybody, and more so for pregnant and lactating women, because it will have a direct bearing on the child's health. Then what are the additional considerations which is important when a woman is pregnant or when she is breastfeeding the child? It includes prenatal vitamins. Friends, you might have heard about pregnant women being prescribed with different kinds of multivitamins depending upon the requirement and deficiency of every person. It's not that all women will have the same amount of deficiency by and large. So, what kind of prenatal vitamins is required? And morning sickness is one of the symptoms which many pregnant women experience in the initial stages of their pregnancy, which leads to, vomiting, sense of nausea, not feeling like eating anything, and becoming very irritated with strong smells, strong odors. And this also varies from person to person, from women to women. So morning sickness is something which is very normal and common, but it has to be regulated, and there are different medical, non-medical ways of regulating it. And you also are aware that many women, they tend to become diabetic during pregnancy. Sometimes the diabetic period can be till the time she delivers, and sometimes she might continue to be diabetic also. So that is why frequent checkups of sugar levels, frequent checkups of blood pressure is very, very important. And you are familiar that in today's time, there are prescribed vaccinations, there are prescribed tests, and you all are familiar that determining the sex of the child when a woman is pregnant is illegal and is liable for punishment. So additional considerations is also very, very important. And whether it is pregnant women or lactating women, these considerations become important. Now, when we move to elderly women, now you might get a question in your mind that why this I am exclusively discussing about elderly women, because uh, why this additional burden of the topic which you have to read for your examination? This can be one natural question in your mind. So, my dear friends, you all are familiar that women have this tendency of developing osteoporosis after menopause. I hope you are familiar with the word menopause. So their menstrual cycle is initiated in the age of it varies again, somewhere between 10 to 14 to 15 years. For some women, it is also 16 to 17 years. So menstrual cycle begins, and when this menstrual cycle is ending, that is called as menopause period. So usually, in earlier days, menopause would set in after 45 or 50 years. But in today's time, because of so much of changes in our lifestyles, our food intake, the polluted environment, the stressful lifestyle. So in many women, menopause is also setting up at a very young age, as young as 35 years, which used to be the period of like high level reproductive period, that is 35 to 35, 36 years. But as I mentioned, certain environmental conditions are also contributing. Irrespective of what stage woman is like menopause is setting, usually what happens after the menopause, there are multiple hormonal challenges, and calcium deficiency is one of them. So when there is very, intense calcium deficiency in the body, there is a high risk of your bones getting broken and high risk of fractures. So when the density of the bone is reducing, that state is called as osteoporosis. So osteoporosis, even men get affected. It's not that this is only women-centric condition, but women, the risk is relatively higher due to hormonal factors also. So one thing is osteoporosis is one critical condition. The second is after the menopause and when the woman is transiting from middle age to the old age, the hormonal challenges are also multiple. Then there are also challenges connected with hormones, which is obesity. Many women they tend to put on weight after menopause, and you might have seen that because they have put on a lot of weight, they are also confronted with challenges connected with arthritis. So to handle all such kind of situation, and apart from that, if the vitamin calcium deficiency is there, the dental problem increases. And when dental problem is increasing, our tendency to eat food in a normal way also gets impacted. And when all that is getting affected, then if you're not eating, because yesterday's session I made it very clear to all of you that what you are eating is very important, but how are you eating, even that is equally important. Because when all the whether macronutrients or micronutrients, whatever you are consuming, its absorption in the body is very, very important. So if your calcium intake is not appropriate, then that will have lead to an entire vicious circle of your challenges. So elderly women, they might face the challenge of osteoporosis. They can develop the challenges of obesity, cardiovascular diseases, which has become very, very common even among women. There used to be time where usually majority of men were affected with cardiac problems, heart problems, but now even increasingly more number of women are suffering from that. Then vitamin deficiency can be a challenge. So keeping in view all these factors, what can be the dietary requirement? Because there are a lot of physiological changes which are taking place. Metabolism rate reduces because you don't tend to be as active as you were when you were 25, 30, 35, 40 years, right? And that also enhances the risk of different kinds of chronic diseases. So again, in this caloric intake becomes very, very important. So if our lifestyle is very sedentary, see, even among elderly people, some elderly can be active. They go for walk, they are in a position to do all household chores like they used to do during middle age. But some people, because of their physical health conditions, might not be in a position to do. So your calorie intake completely depends if you are leading a sedentary life without moving, just sitting at one place, very, very, little movement you are doing, or you are having a moderately active life, or if you are having a very, very active life, like even if you are elderly, you are doing all the work what you used to do when you were in adult stage or when you were in your middle age. So the present slide is giving you those variations. So depending upon what kind of your lifestyle is there, our calorie intake is depends upon that. And again, in this stage also, all good balance of macronutrients and micronutrients is very, very important. Now see, with regard to a protein, as just let me take you to that slide so that you can remember more easily. Uh, right. So during pregnancy stage, as you can see, 75 to 100 grams of protein per day is required. But when you are at an elderly age, your protein requirement can be less than 60, or in some cases less than 50. Here also a lot depends upon what is the level of efficiency of your kidney functioning, because many elderly people who have some challenges with their kidney functioning because of long term diabetic condition, then they are told to minimize the intake of protein and take only to minimum level. So, what kind of macronutrients also you are consuming? Now, for example, if your diabetes range is very, very high, like your HbA1c is always 7.5 plus, then your carbohydrate intake should be controlled. So, our food in the not only in old age, in all ages, but more specifically in old age, completely depends upon what is our present health condition and are there any specific concerns like whether we are diabetic, if you are hypertensive, imagine if you are hypertensive, then salt intake should be regulated as it is in India. We have this tendency of consuming lot of salt. In fact, majority of the Indians consume more salt than the prescribed limit at an international level because our food is also like that. We eat dal also, which will have salt. We will eat pickles also, which will have salt. We will have chutneys also, which will have salt. And minimum two vegetables we definitely eat. So even that will have salt. So all this intake of salt, sugar has to be regulated. Fats, again, very, very careful. Only healthy fats, because if you are consuming more of fats, even in the old age, then your challenges connected with cardiovascular diseases can increase. So, friends, I hope I'm making sense and you are able to understand, though we are not able to interact in any way, but I hope if host can facilitate, if people are watching this through YouTube and if you have any questions which you are posting in the chat, host can also forward those in this Zoom chat so that I can address that. And then calcium, the osteoporosis condition, which I was just mentioning to all of you. So, very, very important challenge. You might have heard, friends, that some person, elderly person, fell down in the washroom. Some elderly person was getting up from the bed, suddenly fell down, had a fracture. So, elderly person fell down from the staircase, had a fracture. So, all this can be the cases of osteoporosis. Need not be all the time the case, but majority of the cases, the possibility, the risk of osteoporosis is very high, and that is why our calcium intake has to be appropriate. Then vitamin D and vitamin B12, which is very, very important source for production of red blood cells. And as we age, aging is a natural process. So as we age, so the absorption of the macro and micronutrients in our body also decreases as we age. So how this problem also has to be addressed is one important concern. So folate, iron, folate again, prevention of anemia is very, very important. Even elderly women, they are at high risk of being anemic. And fiber is very important. So 21 grams per day, because see, elderly people, they might have other health conditions. And for those health conditions, when they are consuming medicines, additional medicines, that medicines can have an impact on our entire digestive system. And that is why it is advised that the challenges of constipation should be addressed to the best possible way by eating natural food. Okay, so high fiber food, because for everything, if we are popping up the pills, there is no end to it. And at this moment, I am reminded of a movie. I hope some of you might have seen that Piku, Piku, Piku movie, in which Amitabh Bachchan ji is there and Deepika Padukone. How Amitabh Bachchan is playing the role of elderly father, and his one of the most serious concerns what he is having is that of constipation. So many of us think that okay, this is not a serious problem, but severe constipation is opening the doorway to many other health problems also. So, best way to avoid constipation or to address constipation is to have high fiber food, increase our liquid intake, do certain amount of walking and physical exercise. That itself. Now you can definitely put a counter question that how elderly women will be in a position to walk, and that is right, friends. It is very important uh, that we realize right from our young age or even in the middle age, we realize that, these could be the health challenges in our old age. And that is why it is important to maintain an active lifestyle to the best possible way. And then magnesium. Magnesium can be very, very important to control blood sugar. If magnesium imbalance is there in our body, our blood sugar fluctuations will also be there. And it also impacts the muscle and nerve functioning. You might have seen elderly people, heard elderly women facing lot of cramps, okay, and nerves getting stuck. These problems you might have up. It not only impacts your heart condition, right? It can also impact your memory. You start feeling confused. You might have seen elderly people like 65, 70 plus whose diet is not proper, right? So when the diet is not proper, right amount of potassium, sodium, magnesium, zinc, it is not going inside your body. And then you tend to feel disoriented, and that is where, like in my own family, I have seen my mother, my other aunts. So when they are feeling disoriented because of this electrolyte imbalance, empty capsules, some salt is filled in those empty capsules, and they are given those capsules also. And that is why the doctors also suggest that once you are 65 or 70 plus, the men or women, it is always advisable that once in a week you can have one medium sized electrolyte sachet so that your electrolyte balance is maintained. So all these factors, simple tips, balanced diet, a positive mindset can actually support a lot of motivation even in old age. And one thing, of course, this is not directly connected with our syllabus. You might think that I'm wasting your time, but it is very important to understand that today, uh, though we claim that India is the youngest nation in the world in terms of the age of its demography, right? But today, if we are young, we are also aging, right? So in another 2 decades, probably 20 to 25 years' time, there will be a significant Indian population which is in elderly bracket, which is in the old age bracket. And a massive effort will be required to support healthcare system for the elderly. And you all are familiar how our social institutions are undergoing change. Our family systems have undergone change. And there will be more and more burden and expectation from the government to support the elderly. So that is why health of the elderly people is very, very important. That is why all those people who are in young age, who are in middle age, if you are becoming aware, making yourself aware that yes, I have to take care of my health, include balanced diet in our food, include some minimum amount of exercise like walking or doing yoga, doing pranayam, it will definitely add lot of value to our life, lot of health quotient to our life. So, hydration, water again is very important. And in this age also, very, very important is to avoid certain foods, especially as I was mentioning, excess salt. Let us not go by the taste, though most of us, including myself, we go by taste. But I think now there has to be a slow transformation instead of taste. Health should be predominant factor, So salt and added sugars, saturated trans fats, all these things should be avoided after a certain age, especially if your lifestyle is sedentary, all the more it has to be avoided. And then bone health, heart health, digestive health, and muscle mass, because muscle tends to degenerate because you're not very, very physically active. The muscles tend to degenerate. That is why how best you can retain your muscle mass, that becomes extremely important in the elderly age period. So now, friends, if you go according to our material, I have tried to cover with this, like I have covered four lessons altogether. So first lesson was about vital statistics and demographic parameters of women health status. Then second unit we discussed about concept of nutrition and balanced diet, and then nutrients in the food, macro, micro. In fact, several times you might have also felt that it has been repeated, but this repetition is under different categories for pregnant women, for elderly women, for balanced diet. And we have also discussed about dietary requirements in different age groups. Now I am going to discuss our unit 5 with regard to what are the common nutritional problems we generally face. When we are talking about nutritional problems, usually what comes in yesterday's class also I was talking about overnutrition, malnutrition, right? I hope you remember. So when you're talking about malnutrition, it can be categorized into multiple kinds of deficiencies. So it includes your undernutrition, where either your intake of that nutrition is less or absorption of that nutrition is not taking place, because of which you are deficient on that particular macro or micro nutrient. So example is protein energy malnutrition, PEM, which is called, which includes conditions like marasmus and kwashiorkor, which are the conditions which one gets into because of deficiency of protein. So what can or what kind of symptoms are there for PEM? Weight loss, muscle wasting, your muscles loosened, and you feel that there is no strength left. Fatigue, always feeling tired, and very weak immune system. Your immunity decreases to a great extent. Then malnutrition can also be because of deficiency of micronutrients. And you all might have heard that most of the kids in India, they were having this challenge of vitamin A deficiency, which is leading to night blindness among the kids. And that is why new kinds of rice varieties have been introduced with this additional gene which supports, presence of vitamin A in the rice, and that as a supplement helps you to fight any kind of vitamin deficiency. So iron deficiency, which can cause anemia, a serious condition. See, anemia in itself up to a certain level might not be very serious. For example, 10 hemoglobin, 9 hemoglobin is also found in most of the women. But if the hemoglobin is going less than 6, then the challenge increases, breathlessness, and such kind of conditions can develop. Then iodine deficiency. In fact, this deficiency was taken up at a national level, and because almost the entire population consumes salt, so it was in a way all the brands of salt were supposed to have that iodine content. You might have seen in the advertisements of some of the salts, iodine yukt namak. Iodine yukt namak means salt which has iodine in it. So that was one of the ways to address iodine deficiency problems in Indian population. So if iodine deficiency is there, goiter, this your neck part will have some kind of swelling, and the development of the child also gets impacted. Vitamin D deficiency can lead to rickets in children and osteomalacia in adults. Overnutrition. Now, this is the reverse of undernutrition. So, obesity can be one serious challenge where excess body fat gets accumulated. Then, this can lead to further complications of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, certain kinds of cancers, and joint problems. Friends, I'm sure you might have heard about the fact that India has become the diabetic capital of the world. And unfortunately, in the South Asian population, its genetic makeup is such where we are at a relatively higher risk of cardiovascular diseases. So apart from now, this on this more research is going on. But apart from that, what is also important for us to remember is our lifestyles, our food habits, even they are contributing in overnutrition, because see, you will definitely agree with me that last one decade, and especially last 2 to 3 years, if you see, our food habits have undergone drastic changes. And we all get literally attracted towards ordering food, because see, now there are so many apps which has facilitated bringing food more easily at home. Then our family structures have undergone change. All these factors are also encouraging and contributing in us to eat food outside. I'm not saying that all the time food outside is unhealthy, but you will definitely agree with me what kind of oil is being used, in which kind of conditions the food is being cooked. All these are matters of concern. And what kind of spices are also being used. So, with this kind of a lifestyle, our risk of type 2 diabetes is also relatively higher. And then, so if you are talking about nutritional problems, one hand we are talking about undernutrition, another hand, so undernutrition can be because of lack of nutrition of macronutrients or micronutrients also, and overnutrition where you are excessively consuming things, which is again imbalanced. And apart from that, apart from uh, malnutrition, undernutrition, overnutrition, there are certain kinds of nutrient imbalances. So hypervitaminosis, like if you are taking too many vitamins, so excessive intake of vitamins from supplements, right? People are nowadays, some of the people, they feel that if they are taking multivitamins, whether their body needs it or they don't need it, they are, prescribing. And in India, we still do not have very stringent laws with regard to buying medicines. You go there and ask them to give you a bottle of multivitamin. It is easily purchasable. So whether our body needs it or not, sometimes we consume more of vitamins. Okay, sometimes less of vitamins. And see, we should remember that this less vitamin condition can also be dangerous, because if the vitamin level is very, very low, it can also lead to blurred vision, okay, and liver damage conditions, pain in the bones, also calcium deficiency can also lead to pain in the joints of your bones, and hypervitaminosis D. So when you have taken excessive of vitamin D, right? So it leads to hypercalcemia, which can cause nausea, weakness, and kidney problems. So excess is also dangerous. Not consuming is also dangerous. Then, among common nutritional problems is also eating disorders. And Some of you might have heard about anorexia nervosa. This you might have heard in the condition where, especially adolescents, young boys and girls, they restrict their food intake because they want to maintain a certain kind of figure, and this leads to extreme weight loss. So, like, let us say on a scale of 10, if your body needs like 10, just to help you understand, your body needs 10 balanced diet, you are taking only 2 or 2.5. You're restricting your diet to such an extent. So that tendency is called as anorexia nervosa. So this is a very common problem in cosmopolitan cities, and especially among the young adolescent boys and girls who are very, very particular that they don't want to put on weight, they want to maintain a very slim, trim figure. Symptoms can be very low body weight, fear of gaining weight. So fear of gaining weight is so high that it restricts your diet and distorted body image. Bulimia nervosa, it involves cycles of binge eating followed by purging. And binge eating disorder, recurrent episodes of eating large quantities of food without purging. So every such, so when you're talking about nutritional problems, this kind of eating disorders can also hamper the level of nutrition in your body. And that is why this can also be the conditions of concern, that when you're talking about food, you're talking about balanced diet. So balanced diet is possible only if you're eating it properly. Then metabolic disorders, nutritional problems also includes another category of metabolic disorders. So where you have diabetes mellitus, a group of disease that result, you all are familiar with this word. Diabetes is a very, very common condition, unfortunately, in today's Indian society. And type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes. This is the gestational diabetes is the one which usually women get during pregnancy. So its symptoms also can vary: thirst, frequent urination, fatigue, and blurred vision. If the diabetes is for a very long period, uncontrolled, high sugar levels, uncontrolled, then it will lead blurred vision and kidney related problems also. Then food allergies. So, like, many people are allergic towards certain kinds of food, especially peanuts, halli, moongfali. If they eat it, like, they develop severe allergic reaction. Some people have allergy to food colors also. So food color allergies are also, so if they are not addressed on time, they can be life-threatening also. Allergies can be life-threatening. So never ever take any kind of allergy in light, because it can have serious impact on it. Food intolerances, like, many people, they cannot tolerate milk. The moment they consume milk, they vomit, or they will have some other kind of reaction, either loose motions, things like that. So some people are intolerant to certain kinds of food, and if you are intolerant to milk, that is called as lactose intolerance. And chronic diseases. Now you can definitely think of asking that how is chronic disease connected with nutritional problems? Friends, you all might have heard the saying, we are what we eat, right? And in fact, in Indian society, if you see, lot of emphasis has been given on what you eat, how you eat, when you eat, how the food is cooked, what time the food is cooked, and what time are you consuming it. All these are critical components of entire lifestyle. And unfortunately, We think that all this is orthodox, all this is old fashioned, and that is why once we are imitating the global habits by ignoring our local conditions, right? Because see, what we eat is also in alignment with the local geographical and topographical when I'm talking about nutritional problems, this is equally applicable to men and women both. It's not that it is only for women. So chronic disease terms of cardiovascular diseases when we are consuming more of high fat foods. So cholesterol, now let us see what happens when your cholesterol is high. Let us say this is the vein through which your blood is passing. So when we are using constantly, now see right now you can see in your camera on your screen, so much of space is there, right? But when you are eating high fat foods, your fat keeps on getting accumulated, and this your tunnel for the blood to flow, this gets minimized. So earlier it was like this, now it has become like this. So earlier when it was like this, the blood was flowing more easily. Now it is flowing like this. So there is more of pressure with which the blood is passing through that stream. So high cholesterol is one of the conditions for cardiac related problems also. And symptoms can include chest pain, shortness of breath, and in extreme cases, heart attack, hypertension, which is again connected with our lifestyle disorder. And many people will not have direct symptoms, but some people, if the BP is increasing, they might have headache, some kind of dizziness. Some people also bleed with nose, but everyone might not have the same kind of symptoms. So we have another 5 minutes. So let me just talk about this topic. My intention is to complete this topic today. And then osteoporosis, which I have also discussed, inadequate calcium and vitamin D intake can be one of the contributing factors. And also our lifestyle is adding to this kind of a challenge. And how it can be prevented? Balanced diet is the only option, regular physical activity, and like if you have any kind of symptoms, minor symptoms also, getting it tested whether are you having any kind of micronutrient or macronutrient deficiency or excess also for that matter, and awareness is very, very important. See, these two conditions, I'm just trying to deal slightly in detail, these two conditions, because in case if you are getting this question in examination about nutritional problems, so try to focus on three dimensions. What are the causes? What are the consequences? And how it can be treated. So, for instance, if we are talking about protein energy malnutrition, so inadequate dietary intake, infections and diseases like it can be respiratory infections, uh, diarrhea, which all impact our metabolic metabolic movement and also lead to nutrient loss. And this because of this, what is happening? The absorption of protein is not taking place. Right? What are its consequences? It leads to diseases. Just now I was mentioning marasmus, kwashiorkor, stunted growth. So what are the symptoms of marasmus? Severe weight loss, muscle wasting, thin limbs, prominent bones, and lack of fat. And for kwashiorkor, what are the symptoms? Edema, swelling, then enlarged liver, hair discoloration, dermatitis, it is a kind of a skin condition, and distended abdomen. So, if you're, and what are the possible treatments? Of course, you have to rehabilitate yourself in terms of nutrition, There is also medical treatment available. And when you visit a physician or doctor, they will definitely give you the supplements. Similarly, with regard to anemia also, what are the causes of it? Iron deficiency, chronic diseases like kidney cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, which is becoming very, very common. All this, they impact our red blood cells. So the moment our red blood cells are impacted, it may also reflect in our hemoglobin levels also. Consequences is what? Fatigue, pale skin, you become very palish, shortness of breath, headaches, cognitive impairment, you feel very disoriented, you are not able to concentrate, you're finding difficult to concentrate on things. And what is the treatment again? To take the dietary intake through diet, through medicines, oral supplements for iron is also there, very good medicines are also there. And in extreme cases, I'm talking, where also, like if the condition is very critical, then blood transfusion also to increase the RBC level in our body. So, friends, these are some of the topics which I tried to discuss in today's class. We are about to approach 9, and I do not want to take much of your personal time because uh, 9 o'clock is our class time. So, I have completed uh, topic up to unit 6. Okay. So, in this unit, we have tried to understand how these conditions. Please remember, these conditions can impact anybody and everybody. But these conditions, when they impact women, also like